Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our interview with Samuel Hill. Samuel is a product marketing director for Cyolo Security. He specializes in critical device security, resilient IT strategies, and process integrity. And Cyolo prevents cyber criminals from logging into your network. So, with background in emergency room and MA in the strategic leadership, Samuel is passionate about helping organizations grow and protect themselves effectively in industries such as manufacturing, banking, financial services, and oil and gas. So, Samuel, thank you for joining us today for our Risk Management Show interview.
Boris, it's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, it's my pleasure too. So, Samuel, could you tell us a short story about your career path? What brought you to where you are right now, and what you guys at Cyolo Security up to these days?
Yeah, so I got my start. My first kind of adult job out of college was as an emergency room technician. And if you're familiar, I hope none of you have ever visited the emergency room. It's not a fun place to go visit. I was there. I was paid to be there. So I got to work there for 7.5 years and had a lot of great stories. And I realized that, I made the move into technology, first into kind of a sales role, working with a lot of really cool companies, and then now into the marketing side. So I made the pivot to marketing just because I thought I could do sales and I didn't know if I could do marketing. So I tried it and honestly fell in love. I didn't know how much I would love product marketing until I started doing it. So I have the privilege of being the person who helps to translate and communicate the really amazing technology that our product developers and product management teams come up with, and then our excellent sales and marketing professionals as we go to market and try and help solve some of the big challenges that our customers have.
All right, perfect. So I believe that we will have a very thoughtful conversation on topic of zero trust access.
Yes.
So never trust, always verify. This is kind
Right.
of opposite that we will want to kind of trust everyone, but as an innovative model for which improves security posture. So Samuel, can you tell us what is this model zero trust access and how it works in the practice?
Yeah, I mean, you said it really well. It is that idea, as first postulated, right? It's always verified, never trust. And it's tough. It's kind of counterintuitive to how humans operate in a lot of ways. Like, we're wired as people, we generally trust others. And unfortunately, in a technology landscape, in a business and a cybersecurity place, that's often misplaced or can be misplaced. And what we see happening today is, the cyber criminals that are out there, they're no longer like doing really advanced, crazy things to break into people's networks or their critical infrastructure or their really sensitive data. They don't have to. All they do is they log in nowadays. So they'll compromise user credentials. They'll find they'll get legitimate, good, actually approved credentials. That's what they use to log in these days. And so even good credentials can't be trusted. We have to take extra steps to verify before we allow trust. And then even once we've verified, the zero trust access model says, okay, once we've verified that there's a good user with good credentials, we still want to not trust them as far as we need to. So we'll only give them access to the very specific things that they need to do their job and nothing more. So I mean, in situations, the person who works at the front desk should not have access to the financial records that the chief operating officer is using to plan, business processes or whatever decisions that they're making. Just levels of access that should be enforced. And then the final step would be, how are we going to monitor and report on what happens? Because again, okay, now you have a good user who's accessing a legitimate system or application or thing for good purposes, but we still want to keep a record of what they did because you just never know. And we might need to have that information for a compliance audit of some kind or some type of regulatory framework we have to meet, or really practically to be able to recover quickly. Oh, this is what they did. We can quickly recover back to an operating state. So that's what the zero trust access kind of framework really looks at, is good users accessing only what they need and being monitored the whole way.
Mm. And how does it differ from traditional access models like DMZ and NAC? I think when I was
Yeah.
IT engineer, I heard about this. But
Yeah, I'm really glad you said NAC. I love I've sold and worked for companies that deployed network access controls NAC, and got a real soft place in my heart for that technology. Really, at the end of the day, a lot of that was built on extending trust to people who were inside your network. So the whole DMZ model, the demilitarized zone, the space between the crazy world of the internet and your supposedly safe harbor inside your corporate network. Unfortunately, that's not as effective today. Now, there are definitely reasons why you should put firewalls and create the DMZs. You should absolutely do that kind of stuff. But we got to recognize that users are crossing those zones frequently. They are readily getting across the DMZ, and for good reasons, or they're just bypassing it altogether. They're going out to cloud applications. They're not even coming back to the corporate network because they're now working from home or traveling, or all of this new model of work. I mean, I'm in my home today. I work from home and access the resources and things that I need by not going through a corporate network. So that model worked when everyone was in the office and there were not as many cyber threats. Unfortunately, today, that's not the reality that IT and cybersecurity professionals are facing.
all right. So let's discuss. Let's drill a little bit deeper. For example, if we take life of CISO or risk manager, if there is one thing that they should start to prioritize right now that they are not doing currently, what would it be?
If I were to start there, I would say, take a look at anyone who does not belong to your company who is accessing your systems, and take a good hard look at that, because there's a lot of real good reasons why you would have a third party or a contractor, an external vendor, or some type of a manufacturer's representative of some kind. There's really good reasons why they need to access your systems, and there's contracts and SLAs and all sorts of stuff there. But take a good hard look at it. Who are they? Can you actually determine, using your techniques and methodologies today, can you determine who that person actually is? Or are they logging in with, vendor@vendor.com as an email address, some generic username and password of some kind, and you really have no idea? Those are things that I would kind of look at very critically. I think there are, most companies have almost 100 third-party vendors that access their systems today, and that's a lot. And one of the things we say here is the idea of inherent or transitive trust. So if you trust a third party to access your systems, you're also trusting all of the people, places, and things the third party trusts. So you're now extending risk much further out than I know a lot of risk and compliance officers would be comfortable with. And I know, honestly, a lot of CISOs are very uncomfortable with. Unfortunately, they don't feel like they have a lot of option in that, because the business needs this external connection, and yet they don't have enough control to be able to manage it appropriately in a way that really lowers the risk level to a place that they can be comfortable with.
So, how do you determine who has access to IT system after a breach, for example, and what is the biggest challenge in implementing a zero trust model?
Yeah, so the biggest challenge is really comes down to identity and policies. So identity is, how do we actually enforce the authentication of a specific user? Is this really, Samuel logging into the system, or is, how do we prevent Samuel's compromised credentials from being used to log into our system? So identity management is a really key part of it, and it's hard to do. It's keeping a clean, source of truth, a clean record for identity management is tough. Not going to sugarcoat that, but I think that's got to be the important piece. And the second part is also challenging but necessary, is what policies should we enforce? We like to look at it as, you're familiar with NAC, you're familiar with, the access control list. You're familiar with, all of the different rules that are pushed out to switch ports and stuff that say, you cannot go here. And really that's kind of based off of the deny list. It's a deny. We like to look at that and say, let's flip that and let's create an allow list. What are users allowed to get to? And so in the Cyolo methodology, we actually are not exposing any applications or ports or systems to the internet for users to find. Everything exists behind the trusted boundary. So a user gets into the system and then is only delivered to that specific thing or application or service or system, and not to a network port, and not to a or a range or a subnet or a VLAN. Sorry for using very technical terms. That's the difference there. So now once you have permissions and access policies set, you can quickly and easily add identities to that permissions list or remove identities to that permissions list, which makes a life a lot easier. So for CISOs out there that are trying to get a handle on the zero trust methodology, especially for access, it really comes down to managing your identities well and then enforcing policies effectively.
Mhm. All right. So let's discuss a little bit about your company. What's something you or your team have recently achieved that you are kind of very proud of? Maybe you can tell us about your without names, but just to understand how you're different from other guys working in third-party risk management.
Absolutely. Yeah, we were just awarded the best cybersecurity startup for 2023 by Cybersecurity Magazine. We're very proud of that award, and along with many others. Our story is kind of fun. We were founded by a CISO, so a Chief Information Security Officer, who was looking for a way to kind of cleanly solve these challenges of high risk access, where a user could cause enormous damage to the business. And he couldn't really find anything, or he couldn't find anybody that was able to help him in a truly zero trust way, in a way that he didn't have to trust the vendor. And so he partnered with a couple of ethical hackers that he knew from the Israeli military, and they formed Cyolo. And the idea is we want to have a zero trust methodology across the entirety of the life cycle. And so, yeah, there's one of our recent customers that I'm particularly proud of is a global food manufacturer who they make the cookies that are really great dipped in milk. They have stuffing in between two cookies, and sometimes they have a double amount of stuffing. And if that cookie production shuts down for a minute, can you imagine the worldwide panic? My family alone would be rioting in the streets. They had issues because they had a lot of external access into those production lines that were making their packaged goods. And all of that was severely risky to them. And so solving that became our number one priority. And we were able to help achieve that with them, and now are really providing them the controls they need to keep the cookies being delivered to the world.
Right. Well, it's a good, strong case.
Yeah.
To implement the software. So what are the most common mistakes that organizations make in implementing this model of zero trust strategy?
I think so. There's obviously security, risk management. It's a lot of practicalities that go into that. There's a lot of theory. There's a lot of really great ideas and models and frameworks, but then there's the practical day-to-day reality of we just have work to do. We got jobs to get done. I think the mistake that a lot of people make is that they assume there's nothing they can do about certain things. I can't solve the access for my third parties. I just don't have much control over that. I have to let them in, but I don't really have control over it. Oh, it's kind of like a known issue. And so you just kind of live with it, right? And I think that's a mistake that people make is not asking hard questions about, well, why do I have to live with that? What if I could do something to lower that risk exceptionally? Every time you get the audit and you have to sign off on that one section that's like, hey, not optimal or whatever the ranking is, and you have to sign it and say, yeah, okay, I know, I'm aware, but I can't do anything about it. So I would challenge that thinking of anytime that you come across a situation where you just, I just can't do anything about this. Let's ask some better questions. Let's find some ways, perhaps, that there's some methodologies we can employ that could help us there.
Fantastic. So, where do you think that third-party security as a whole is heading, or perhaps maybe more deeper and zero trust model? Yeah. And what are the trends in the space, and what should we expect from you guys in the future?
Yeah, I think that we're going to start seeing a lot of organizations around the world consolidating a lot of their contractors, vendors, suppliers for just operational savings. There's, the financial pressures are such today in today's economy that a lot of businesses are making very hard decisions about these type of things. And so from how we're approaching that is any change in those systems obviously introduces new nuances of risk and new ways of dealing with it. And we just want to be included in that conversation so we can help provide the level of control that companies need to securely enable that consolidation and some of their strategies there. So from us, you're going to see us focus a lot more on securing these really risky access methods and providing advanced features to, so say somebody's, again, that manufacturing line I was talking about earlier, somebody is, from some other part of the world logging into that system remotely. We might want to use some recording mechanism to actually record their screen when they log into that one specific injector on the manufacturing line. We want to record their screen and be able to, look over their shoulder. So normally that's a significant operational cost of time for, an engineer to just sit on Zoom or Teams or whatever and watch that person work. So I think we're going to see the trend of companies wanting to find economies of scale to better operationalize and be more efficient in how they do their work. And so using tools to help them do that. So that's what we're focused on as a company is helping to improve their efficiency and their operational efficiency to better deliver cybersecurity.
All right, fantastic. And maybe last question I have, if I summarize it for someone who is listening to this interview and who would like to walk away with one or two major takeaways, what would that be?
Yeah, I think the takeaway that I would leave people with is there are probably situations in your business where user access could cause enormous damage. And what that is very specific to your business. However, you don't have to live with the status quo and accept just the reality that I may not be able to do much about lowering my risk here. There are ways, there are methodologies that can help you lower your risk and improve the operation of your systems so that user access no longer causes enormous damage to your business.
All right, fantastic, Samuel. That were all my questions. Perhaps if I forgot something that you feel will benefit our audience, please go ahead.
Yeah, we have been growing very rapidly. And so I'm grateful for the opportunity to share just a little bit about how we're approaching it. The final thing I would say is, Cyolo is built by practitioners, not by theorists or, serial venture capitalists who are trying to just build money in their bank accounts. It was built by real people who really live this world, who understand, the challenges of I have to lower risk. I've got to find a way to better mitigate these things and put controls in place. And that's why the platform was built, was to deliver that. So we're honored to be a part of this community in this small way and look forward to working closely with you guys.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I wish you personally and your company very great success. And hopefully we will come back and discuss some other topic that benefit our community.
Boris, I'd look forward to that. Thank you.
Thank you.